Hey there, welcome to Board Game Barrister, our local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is Tuesday once again, and every Tuesday we get to play a game. Today, that game was Fire Tower by Runaway Parade Games. It is a game where we are trying to be the last fire tower standing as the forest between us all burns, and we're going to do that by playing action cards and trying to destroy our opponents along the way. My opponents today were my fellow barristers Glenn and Gordon, and before we talk about our game and everything we loved about it, we're going to talk about how to play. Welcome to Fire Tower, a game where we're going to try to keep our tower alive from the spreading fires while we harness the winds and the flames to spread the fires toward our opponent's towers and knock them out first. When the game starts, we've got an empty forest, but for the eternal flame at the center of the board, this counts as fire spaces and can never go out, and the fire's gonna spread from there. We're also gonna roll our direction die that has north, south, east, and west on it to determine which way the wind is blowing when the game begins, and we've got a little weather vane here where I'm going to mark north as the starting direction for this game. Each player also gets a hand of 5 action cards, and then we're ready to roll. The first player is gonna get us started and take their turn. And a turn in this game is extremely straightforward. There are 2 steps, and they're both very simple. The first step is for the wind to spread the blaze. And to do this, I just have to place my fire somewhere where it's adjacent to fire that's already on the board. So I've got my eternal flame here to start, and it has to extend that fire in the direction that the wind is currently blowing. That's it for the first part of my turn. The second part of my turn is to play 1 card from my hand. And there are 4 types of cards in this game, the first of which is fire cards. Now, fire cards always cause more fire. Each of these is going to give us instructions that we're going to carry out in order to use the card, and then show us a little pattern where we're going to be placing fires out on the board. So to use this flare up, this player is going to place 3 more fire tokens somewhere on the board, and they have to start adjacent to pre-existing fire. So they could, for instance, extend this fire down this way. The next type of card is a wind card, and these always work the same way, but the direction will be different on each one of them. So I've got a west card, and each of these wind cards gives me 3 different choices for how to use it. I can always change the direction of the wind on the weather vane to west, or I can roll the weather die. If I don't like west, I can roll and try to get a different direction, and then we change the weather vane to that direction. Or I can simply place 1 more fire gem to the west of another fire gem that's already on the table. So that's one way to spread fire a little ways in a direction that the wind isn't currently blowing. Next up, we have water cards. Water extinguishes fires, so this is your defensive play. You can extinguish fires that are getting a little too close to your tower for your liking. This will work the same way as a fire card, except it's removing fire tokens. So this one lets me remove up to 3 fire tokens in a line. Maybe I'll take those 3 right back off where they came from. And the last type of action card we'll see is going to be fire break cards. Now, fire breaks are literal defenses that you're going to set up in the forest that the fire cannot spread through. So my scratch line here, for instance, lets me put 2 fire break tokens with 1 space between them is the pattern for this one. And a fire break means that fire cannot spread into that space. So if someone wanted to spread fire down toward these players to the east, then they would have to find a way around this fire break first. So let's back it up and say that this player chose violence today and they choose to play that flare up and add 3 tokens to the board. That's it for the play a card phase of that player's turn, which means they're just going to draw up back to 5 cards and their turn is over. The next player is going to do the same 2 steps. The wind's going to spread the fire in the direction on the weather vane, and then they're going to play a card in their turn, and we're on to the next player after that. Now, the last type of card you're going to find in that deck is going to be event cards, and they occur immediately as soon as somebody draws them at the end of their turn. There's a few different events you can choose to use or not to use in the box. Today we are playing with the Firestorm event. When the Firestorm is drawn, it immediately spreads a bunch of fire in certain directions, and how that works is we're going to roll that direction die. In this case we got west, and that means we're going to add a fire token to the west of all pre-existing fire. So we're going to add 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. That's the end of the Firestorm. We're going to roll that die 1 more time and then reset the weather vane to be in this direction. The Firestorm goes to the discard pile, and if we get through our entire deck, we're going to shuffle it back in and we might get yet another Firestorm. So that's the bulk of the gameplay. We're going to keep going around, spreading that fire and try to get it closer and closer to our opponent's fire towers while defending our own. And eventually the board might look a little bit more like this. You can see here all the players are in a little bit of trouble here. Most of all our purple player here. So if it's somebody else's turn and they choose to put a fire token in the direction of the wind and actually get it onto that player's tower, now their tower has begun to burn. Normal water cards cannot remove water from your tower, but each player gets a 1-time use bucket. So as soon as you use this bucket on your turn, you flip it over and can't use it again, and this bucket is the only way you can get water off of your tower, so that might save them here. But if that inevitable time comes and somebody adds a fire token onto that backmost space, the roof of their tower, then that player is instantly eliminated. And then the player who knocked them out actually gets to take their hand of cards and combine it with their own hand, picking the 6 that they like the most and then discarding the rest. all the other players are then going to go up to 6 card hands by drawing one more card, and suddenly everybody has more cards than they did previously. And once another player is eliminated, that hand size goes all the way up to 7, so the last 2 players remaining, if we were starting with a 4-player game, are going to have 7 cards to be able to pick from as they're throwing actions at each other. And the game ends at that final moment when a player eliminates their final opponent. Alright, so we just finished playing our game with 3 players. It was pretty interesting with 3, and it took us about 45 minutes. That included learning all the rules to the game. So really, once we were going, it moved along fast, and I feel like this would be a 30-minute game if we played again. Maybe I'd say like 10 minutes per player, because there would just be more people to eliminate if you added a 4th player, for instance, so maybe up to 40 minutes with that many. It felt like it moved along at a really good pace, and ended like at a perfect time, and I really liked the amount of time it took. And as I said, we played with 3, and our kind of takeaway after playing with 3 was that it was really fun, it was interesting, trying to kind of play the politics of getting people to push the fire and the wind in different directions and stuff like that, but it feels clear that they really built this to be optimized as a 4-player game. It's going to be perfect with 1 player in each corner. Whenever the wind shifts, it's going to move toward 2 players who are suddenly invested in getting that wind pushed away from them. So it's really fascinating mechanics as a 4-player game, and you're going to have just a forest full of fire that everybody's trying to fend off and kind of be forced into unexpected partnerships because of that. So we really think it is probably best when you can get 4 people together. In fact, there's a cooperative variant that makes it so you can play as a team all against the fires, and you can only do that with 4 players. So when you got 4 people, play Fire Tower is the takeaway.
Well, the thing I really liked about this game is I won.
Yeah.
That's what I
In dramatic fashion, I will add.
We're gonna explode this one.
Wait a minute. This just says I'm going to kill you.
You can do that if you want to lose it right next to me to 1 flare up. All right. Oh,
Flare up.
it's a flare up. Flare up is a strong card.
Yep. The politicking was great, but I also like the fact that there's a lot of possibilities for what might seem like strange strategies that I was thinking of possibly toying around with, like the explosion card, which lets you make a huge fire, but it lets you create a fire break that breaks the normal placement of fire break rules. And I could see combining this, trying to be sassy and play this to get a bigger fire break wall in front of you, and then hopefully dousing those extra flames later on. So like, there's interesting combos that you can try to come up with using some of the fire cards, where people are like, why are you putting the fire towards you? It's like, I have a plan, which could burn you, literally. But I like that, and I like the rules for the fire breaks where I can't just simply play a big wall. There always has to be a space between fire break cards I play, which is great, because otherwise it's the, how do you get past that stuff if everyone is constantly just building a wall around their tower that you can't get through. So I like the fact that they put some thought into how that works, where it's like, I can build the fence, there's still ways to get around it.
Unlike many games that we play on Tuesdays, this is a directly competitive game. So you have to be willing to burn your other players to the ground and do so with aggression. And when that happens to you, know that everybody's just playing the game. So if you are someone who doesn't like being picked on, or you feel that you're being picked on when people knock you out of the game, you want to steer clear of this one. But if you are, if you've got that competitive, we want to play to win and we want to beat the other players and we want to knock them out of the game, this really gets you there in a hurry. You will enjoy being able to directly burn each other out of the game, and you have to be willing to do that and have it done to you.
Come on!
Well, you made that nice fire break that really draws attention to
More
yourself.
fire breaks. I'm just trying to survive.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, normally I am pretty wary of a game when I read that there is an elimination mechanic where somebody can get knocked out and then must sit out the rest of the game and just wait for everybody else to be done. But once we were underway in this one and I got knocked out, it was literally 1 turn later that the game ended, for one thing, so that was interesting. But that's partially because they put in a ton of different mechanics to kind of ameliorate that time you're going to have to wait once you've been knocked out. For the most part, you are going to get knocked out at a point when the forest is already totally full of flames. As soon as you get knocked out, a firestorm happens and possibly just extends those flames even further toward other players. And it increases the hand size of all the players at the table immediately, so people's options for how to destroy each other suddenly grow. They took steps to make it feel like you wouldn't just have to sit around for 40 minutes being like, well, you picked on me and now I don't get to play anymore. Alright, there you have it. I think that does it for Fire Tower. We had a really fun time playing this one, despite me getting burnt to a crisp, and we hope you had a fun time watching. Thanks so much for joining us this week. As always, hit that like button, leave a comment if you got a comment. If you want to watch us play a new game every Tuesday, you can hit that subscribe button, and check out our online store. It's got a bunch of cool games like Fire Tower. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time.